That's cinema, baby.
No, Mr. Wilson. I don't have to take that kind of talk from anyone.
That's right, you don't. How about going outside and trying to kick me around?
I'm not supposed to fight with the guests, Mr. Wilson.
I'm not a guest tonight, you yellow bastard. I happen to be an intruder.
Hello and welcome to The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly, a film podcast where we pair movies to garner a better understanding of the filmographies of notable directors, actors, writers, cinematographers, whatever. Typically one artist or person per season, often with guests. I am your co-host, Kenneth.
I'm your co-host, Ryan.
Sorry, guys. I was just washing some vegetables in the bathtub. This is Thomas.
And so on this podcast, The Good, the Pod, and the Ugly, we do a deep dive on paired films and their backgrounds, adding our insights. And we have Jack here.
Hi,
Jack. And we're doing the second part of our 4x4 where we talk about we each pick a director. We watch 4 films that we feel are emblematic of their entire filmography. This is our second director, picked by Jack, Tsai Ming-liang, and we're on the 4th of his 4 films, which is
Days.
D-A-Y-S, not D-A-Z-E.
Yes.
Although, is there a homonym in Taiwanese? I would love to know. And excuse me, in Chinese, that was really a dumb thing to say.
It's actually Mandarin, so it's
Mandarin
twice.
Yeah.
That's a double gong.
Yeah. Anyway, I would love to know if they mean the same, if they sound the same in Chinese, because it seems fitting for American.
Yes.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Days.
2020. Same year as Tenet.
Woo! Shout out.
That's the only film we've covered from 2020.
No shit. Huh.
Weirdly enough, another gay romance.
Yeah. Timey-wimey stuff even, maybe.
So do you want to give, I know you've done it the 3 previous episodes, but as we've stated, these films are rather obscure, and some people might be coming to this podcast episode more than the others.
People come to this podcast?
They might be coming to this episode.
Oh, whoa.
Sometimes they come on.
There is some hot stuff that's going on.
Fucking break. They might, because of the film we are...
Are you about to ejaculate, Ken? Your voice sounds like it's about to get really big.
People may listen to this episode because of the film involved.
I don't think they'll listen past this point. But yeah.
Well, they could just join right in, the rest of them.
Do you want me to speed run through who Tsai Ming-liang is? What do you want me to do?
Yeah. And then the 3 previous films we've watched.
So we watched his first film, Rebels of the Neon God, 1992. Then we watched Goodbye Dragon in 2003. Then Stray Dogs 2013. And now this is Days 2020. I wanted to pick one film from each decade over 30 years of his career. Each are around 10 years apart. He's a Taiwanese new wave director who is into slow cinema. Very, very slow sometimes.
Uh-huh.
So slow that there's no dialogue or even a plot sometimes, perhaps. He's also gay.
And his muse is heterosexual but lives with him, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
Dope.
Yeah.
Li Kang-sheng, who's in all of his movies.
Yeah.
Including this one.
That brings me to the sitcom, The Artist and the Muse. So this is a Taiwanese sitcom about Tsai Ming-liang and Li Kang-sheng, who is his muse and is in all his movies. I'm going to do the dub version because... Okay. So it's The Artist and the Muse. The platonic artist and the muse. The muse enters. I can't believe it. The artist. What is that, muse? My credit card bill. These massages are putting a vice grip on my bank account. What are you doing? Working on ideas for future movies. Oh, may I look? Of course. Birdwatcher's face as he watches birds in the rain. Nice. A rickshaw repairman's face as he watches cars and scooters go by, waiting for a customer in Taipei. In the rain. Great idea. Oh, this one sounds promising. A chain-smoking janitor at a youth hostel in a depopulated urban Taipei watches foreign youth with their lives ahead of them and subsists on the street food the tenants leave in their rooms. That's great. Thank you, Muse. I have an idea. Oh, do tell. A lonely cigarette smoker in a foreign city undergoing cyborg treatment gets a sensual massage from a lonely young soup maker. If nothing else, I'd get paid to get a massage for once. What? Oh, Muse, you are a sneaky cabbage head. The Muse shrugs for the camera. The end.
I almost want to say it was worth watching these films just to be able to laugh at that, but I'm not sure.
Well, thank you.
Did you write that all yourself?
Written, performed, and edited by King Coral. All rights reserved.
I love it.
2024.
Wow, you're using your Eternity with the Bloodsows skills there.
Was that just a full stop on the episode?
Yeah. On the whole podcast.
Yeah.
It was good while it lasted, boyo.
Yeah, we had a run there, guys. Did anybody ever see the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer just loves taking a shower so much he just stays in there, and then it results in him making his food in the shower?
Yes.
That was the funniest part of this movie, thinking about that episode of Seinfeld.
I think that's a cultural difference. You racist, for one thing. I think that that's something that I've seen a lot in Chinese films. I think it might be a result of some of the apartments being so small as well.
Man, now I feel like an asshole.
So Days.
Yeah. My only synopsis was, what if Second Unit was a movie?
That's really good.
Yeah.
I will say, I actually wrongfully assumed, looking at the date this came out and the description of the film, that this was shot during COVID. It was not.
Released during COVID.
It was released right before, like in February of 2020, and then it didn't really get a wide mainstream release in thousands of theaters in America after that.
Weird.
I don't know why.
Is that why he pulled out of his relationship with one studio and went with another? Is because they wouldn't wide release it and they wanted to stream it immediately?
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, and then you also remember Tom Cruise famously going to see Tenet with a mask saying cinema is back. There's also a lesser known video of him going to see this movie.
It's a 2 hour and 7 minute video of his face watching the movie.
Yes. And he has a thing of baby oil in his hand instead of a thing of popcorn.
And wait, so that the trailer for this movie was just 1 minute shorter than the film itself? That's about right.
It's funny you say that about second unit footage, Thomas, because this is comprised of, first of all, this took him 6 years to make. He started filming this immediately after Stray Dogs in 2014.
Really?
And it's comprised of footage from multiple different countries. Originally, it started off with him filming his BFF, undergoing that weird, what'd you call it, cyborg treatment? Or whatever. I don't know what that is, or what that does, or what it's for. But he, in real life, was undergoing some chronic pain. And he started filming videos of him, like, getting acupuncture and weird burning tinfoil on his back or whatever.
So I actually stood up. We were watching this, and I had to get really close to the TV because I couldn't figure out what the fuck they were doing on his back. There's like, it's like aluminum foil and old tickets and little...
Yeah. So I asked my spouse about this because I don't really get acupuncture or cupping or other things. I was like, is this a real thing? And I think I described it as cyborg programming. But what's amazing about it, or what's interesting about it, and this is one of the few scenes that there's like maybe 4 scenes that, within the same period, without cutting away and cutting back, have multiple camera setups. And so it starts off, and it's like, his head's like in a massage cradle, and something's going on with his back. But I can't tell what's going on back there. Maybe he's getting spine surgery. Maybe he's getting a massage. Who knows? And then there's smoke. I'm like, okay, maybe the guy's smoking, giving him a massage or something. And then it cuts further and further away, so you can finally see that there are needles and electrodes and paper. And maybe the paper is to keep, like, for insulation so that the things don't touch. I have no fucking idea what is going on. But it looks like it might help him out.
So we should also, we didn't preface this, but this film, when the title comes up, it does say that there are no subtitles, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
Intentionally unsubtitled.
Well, I mean, not that it's really needed because nobody really talks.
Yeah, there's like, you can hear the doctor / masseuse / mad scientist sort of talking to his assistant, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And then there's another scene where he's very quietly talking to the young man in the hotel, but it doesn't really matter what they're saying. And besides that, there's no dialogue in the whole thing.
But I didn't, I guess, notice in other films, his face is scarred. Did you guys see the cuts in his face? And I didn't know when that might have occurred to him, because it feels like it's part of the actor. It doesn't feel like it's makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on a train and he got hit by a snake, or whatever happened to young Indiana Jones. I don't remember. Speaking of makeup, this was made with a crew of Tsai Ming-liang, a light person, and a camera person, and that was it. And then the 2 actors, and besides that, yeah, they didn't have any makeup people or any. What else do you have on a set? A guy that gets you Diet Cokes.
Yeah, you have your gophers, your fluffers, your. Wow.
Yes.
So
That's all you got.
You got your script doctors. For this, there was probably, like, they did a lot of it probably in post, just a lot of cleanup with digital effects.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like that's completely unsurprising. I'm surprised that there are that many people.
And this is probably the easiest of his films to get across what it's about. It's like 2 lonely guys. The muse plays, I think he's a man out of country. He's in a different country because there's actually trees wherever he is, and that's something very unusual. When it cuts to trees the first time, I was like, whoa, where's Taipei? And then even the cars and the traffic, it definitely feels like a different place than his. Was it filmed in another country?
A lot of it was filmed in Laos, I believe, because that's where the actor who plays the masseuse is from.
Okay.
And I think, I forget, that maybe they went to like Malaysia. A lot of it was in another country where he was trying to get treatment for this actual back and neck pain condition that he has suffered from since the early 90s.
Yeah. It started right around the time he started smoking. Weird. So it's this lonely guy in another country, and a young man, a very fastidious young man who cleans his lettuce more than I've ever seen any lettuce get cleaned. Props. I mean, he does do it in a tub in the bathroom, but still, he cleans it like 4 times.
Yeah, no bugs in that thing.
No, you're not getting any salmonella or anything from that. And then it turns out the young man is hired by the lonely guy for a very sensual massage, which is 2 extremely long takes of the massage that take up the bulk of the movie. It's kind of like the football game in The Longest Yard, or the attack on the chateau in The Dirty Dozen. For this movie, it's a sensuous massage from a young man to a slightly older man who's in another country getting treatment for his back.
Yeah, I mean, to say that though, like I didn't read ahead of time because I don't like to know what a film's about prior to seeing it, if possible. And so when you get to hour 20 or so, and he takes the sheets off, the older man who's got an cyborg surgery and wearing a neck brace occasionally and walking down the street, that basically summarizes the first half of the film. Takes sheets off the bed. It then cuts to him lying ass up, naked, ass up on the bed, and he's getting a massage. But the way that it's framed is you don't really see who's giving him a massage, nor does it necessarily be. Is it necessarily going to be sexual? There's a lot
Spoiler.
of like, somebody, that person that's off camera is wearing white Calvin Klein briefs, which is like, oh, okay, that's a little unusual for a masseuse. But again, different culture. I don't know. And then that goes on for 10 minutes. And then you get a closer shot of his face. And then he flips over and his nipples start getting massaged. And I'm like, okay, it's been 14 minutes. I bet that this is sexual. And then he starts licking the nipples. And I'm like, still, I don't know. Because I'm not hearing like jerk off sounds. Right? I'm just seeing that. I'm like, well, maybe that's how they. I just saw cyborg acupuncture. Who knows? Maybe this is part of a massage, and then eventually he does get jerked off. But you don't see any of it. You don't see any dongs in this film, just butts.
Yes.
Indeed.
Very, very carefully framed shots for the massage, which does last about 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what he paid for, but I mean, most massages are 30 to 60 minutes. So
you don't know what he paid for?
Yeah, I think we know what he paid for. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird that this is. I was telling my dad earlier because he was like, my dad Ken on the podcast, that this was that this is going to be like the least downloaded episode or whatever, and I was like, I don't know, because looking on Reddit and Letterboxd, which I know isn't emblematic of the whole world, for Tsai Ming-liang and information on him and what people think about him and stuff, it seems like this is actually, besides Goodbye Dragon Inn, maybe his most popular movie. And I think a lot of it is because of how recently it came out. But also, I don't know, because it's, out of all of them that I've seen, this is completely the least accessible. I mean, if Straw Dogs, whatever it's called, has an hour and a half of build up to this climax where it really becomes a movie, a narrative film, a picture, this doesn't have. You really have to be there to find it in this. It is more like an art installation.
Yeah.
Than this is something that you would see 20 minutes of at a museum and then move on to the next room.
Yeah. I think
I don't know if I'd give it that long, but I did not, in my experience of the films, I did not feel that this film was any different than the others. And I think I like it better than Dragon Inn.
Whoa.
No, not Dragon Inn.
Coming in hot.
Goodbye, Dragon Inn.
You're coming in hot,
not the
Thomas.
original film, and maybe it's just because it was the last one that I watched, and I knew I was getting into. Maybe also I watched it on Blu-ray, so I was able to watch it in 4x speed.
While playing Subway Surfers.
Yeah, this was the only one that I was admiring the way he frames. I think of all the directors we've covered over the years, I mean, he frames his static shots about as beautifully as any director I've ever seen. I mean, there's a closing shot with just the young guy on a bench, and it lasts so long, you start noticing the details of it. Some of the most beautiful framing. And like it's more of something you appreciate for its artistic value. Nothing about this really drew me into to the stories or the characters. And if it was an art installation in a museum and I went in and it was the massage thing, I would have felt like, oh no, they're going to think I'm not an ally if I get up during it and force myself to watch the whole massage scene. And then someone would come in and go like, I bet he comes here every time when that scene comes up. So I'm glad it wasn't.
I'm sorry, when did you come?
Multiple times during the massage scene. Keep up, Thomas.
Okay.
It is very much a museum piece, and unlike the other films, it is what it says on the tin, which I think does make it more accessible in a weird way. To your experience, Thomas, and to its popularity, Jack, in that it's called Days. You read what it says, and then you see a guy live these days, and the summary is 100% accurate.
If it was gays, it might have helped. I'm like, oh, okay, I know what I'm watching now. Those two guys are going to meet on screen at some point.
Yeah.
Because there was at one point where we get introduced to a female character, and then we don't see her again. And so that was a little confusing. But I was just ready for the ride. And I think I was primed for it from the previous ones, which is why it went out a little smoother.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Interesting.
That I guess that makes sense.
And to the title, there is a Mandarin speaking letterboxd username Jing, shout out, who says that the original title literally translates into days, but the deeper meaning is life or the day-to-day routine that comes with as many hardships and challenges as joys.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
That does make sense with the that is kind of what I didn't think of that as far as days and daze, DAZE, but just the being on autopilot in life very much is what this felt like to me. And it felt like a pure, even though I did not enjoy it past what Ken said, actually after about a half an hour, I kind of started doing other things a little bit while watching it and paying less attention, which I don't necessarily feel took away from my enjoyment. And I felt like that's kind of what it's there for. It's like a documenting of life happening by to one friend by another friend,
That is something I was thinking while watching it the first hour or so before the big action set piece. I was thinking, wow, this would be the best movie to build a Lego set to. This would be absolutely perfect. And then once it got to that stuff, the back half of this movie, I feel like, is loaded with a lot more story than you might think at first glance. I think similarly to Stray Dogs, where the first hour of that movie, I didn't really know where it was headed or what it was doing. If you hadn't watched the first hour and a half of Stray Dogs, the last 45 minutes wouldn't hit as hard. And I think I felt the same way about this after the climactic, in more ways than one, encounter with the masseuse. That stuff would really got to me on an emotional level, the same way the ending scene of Goodbye Dragon Inn does, with the two actors talking about the passing of the cinema. The last shot of this movie is the last couple shots are pretty devastating, and I don't think I would have felt that way about it if I hadn't forced myself to sit through what this movie is forcing you to sit through and really pay attention to.
Yeah, it's that connection that the two guys make at the end, and then they move on.
Yeah, walk me through some of that, I guess, because there's the massage scene. They rinse off in the shower. Older dude, I think it's maybe counting out the money, and then gives him the music box, right?
Just like the Road Warrior.
But what I couldn't tell was if they had a relationship or if this is just a one-time encounter, because it seems a little odd to give that gift if it's a one-time encounter, but then it's even odder to play it for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't too sure about that. And then immediately after that, then the younger guy leaves. The older guy's watching him leave at the door, and then the older guy leaves, and then there's like a cut to black, which isn't the end of the film, but something is happening in the dark, and then they go and have a dinner together. And so I wasn't too sure what all I was supposed to be understanding, or could project onto that.
Isn't it just two lonely people in a giant city making a brief, tenuous connection and then moving on? I mean, I didn't see any more than that.
But do you give your Johns gifts if it's a one-time hookup, or do you wait till like the third time, Ken?
Again, it's a cultural thing. I don't know. Maybe if I was there, I would give him a music box.
So I think the cut to black, for one thing, is supposed to be the lights in the hotel room turning off. And I think I read in an interview, Tsai Ming-liang, I didn't realize this, started in theater directing plays. So I think that was his way of doing like a close curtain, like in between acts. But as to the connection between them and why he gives him the music box or anything, I think so much of that is why he didn't, for one thing, write dialogue for this movie or really have any dialogue planned out and not have any subtitles. I think you're supposed to just infer to that, get out of it whatever you put in. And some people might say, well, if I have to make up the story, then whatever. That's really a personal thing. And it made me realize just how young the other guy is, the masseuse, especially when he's walking around with his backpack and he's playing the music box and getting some sort of enjoyment out of it. It really made me think about how much younger he is compared to this other guy. And whatever illness was in him, whatever pain he was feeling and getting the cyborg back treatment for, seems to have gone away after that encounter. So whether that's a metaphor for someone who is lonely and just needs someone to like touch, or whether it's someone coming to terms with their own sexuality at an older age than most people, I don't know, but it's probably something along those lines. And I think it's important to note that during the massage scene, they're as close together as you can be physically, but they don't kiss until like the very end. Li Kang-sheng's character like pulls him in for a passionate, very brief kiss, and then once they're in the shower, it seems like it's back to, there's like that emotional barrier between them again.
Well, even when they leave the apartment, the younger one follows behind the older person as they're going to the restaurant. So yeah, there's definitely like a power dynamic shift.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't, on that, whatever those little moments are, or what they mean, or if they mean anything, or if none of this was thought out and it's stupid, whatever it is, it got to me. I thought it was pretty brilliant and effective, and those scenes at the end where he's walking back to his home in the mountains felt incredibly violently lonely, just like the ending of Rebels of the Neon God felt to me.
So I guess the other question I had is, at the very end, the younger gentleman with the backpack and the music box is sitting at a like a local bus stop playing that, and it's a pretty empty street. You occasionally see people walk by, and then all of a sudden you see like a herd of white people walk by.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that was just fortuitous when they were filming, or if they like brought we're doing a casting call for Canadian American looking people.
No, I don't think any of those were extras, because if you watch the street scenes of the main character walking the streets, there are people who look at the camera.
Yeah.
And then the way people who are walking past the masseuse while he's sitting there looking at him is very natural. And I didn't yell out, but I said, "What the fuck? Those are Americans."
Yeah.
You said these. I've been watching this is the fourth movie of this guy, and it's all like, I mean, the people of most of the actors are smaller, slender people, so you get these American-sized people walking by. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
it's like breaking the fourth wall a little bit.
What that made me think of was the ending of towards the ending of Infinity Pool, the Brandon Cronenberg, when there's just randomly he's walking through the airport and just randomly in the background there's these group of people dressed like Hasidic Jews, but like comically with like giant noses and all this stuff, and like these hideously racist costume. That kind of like broke the movie for me. I was like, that is the most random, bizarre fourth wall break I could possibly imagine, and that really tied the room together. And that's exactly how this felt. I was like, whoa, I get it now. It really made the movie.
Because that's basically the end of the movie. He puts on his backpack, puts the box in it, and leaves. So he just spends like 10 minutes on a park bench doing that, and then that's the end of the movie.
And he's not just super clean with his food that he prepares. After all the oil in the massage sequence, I mean, he does a pretty good job of soaping up dude and making sure it all gets off. I mean, he's really good about cleaning up after himself.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because it's Chekhov's cleaning.
Chekhov's cleaning, yeah.
No, I wrote Chekhov's soup because you see him making the soup and then you see him eating it, but you never get to actually see the soup.
Interesting.
I felt a little cheated there.
So yeah, the actor who plays the masseuse is not a professional actor.
What?
Right. He's just someone that Tsai Ming-liang met in a food court, I guess.
Do tell.
But they don't speak the same language because you can hear very faintly when they're having that conversation, whatever it is. He says thank you in English. And so what is the universal language if not music?
English.
On set, right.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Just a theory.
Hence the music box. Okay, that makes sense.
And Tsai Ming-liang, his whole philosophy, I think, if we're really wrapping up what all of these movies are trying to do, he said that, I'm paraphrasing here, and he also said it in Mandarin Chinese, I'm guessing, that you can film a goldfish. He wants to film a goldfish, right? And he wants to be pointing at it behind the camera and saying, go that way, and he knows it's not going to go that way. But if he leaves the camera rolling for long enough, eventually it's going to. And I think that is emblematic in this movie way more than any of his others.
What was the end of that Clint Eastwood movie where he's like watching birds in the lawn? Maybe he's a Secret Service agent. Like, I bet that one's going to go first. Fly that direction. That's what makes great directors, is just patience.
Yes.
And great doctors.
Yeah.
Treating their patients.
Patience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, speaking of patience, I mean, I think Tsai Ming-liang is not for everyone. Speaking of patience. But for people who love slow cinema and had not heard of him before, I think this is wonderful. Of the four movies, I think three of them are masterpieces, and the fourth one, I'm glad you got to see his most recent movie, I guess.
I loved it. I don't think it was nearly. It didn't connect with me as well. I don't know. It did, but I don't think it's as rewatchable as the other three. I think I could see myself rewatching. Yeah. I mean, I watch Rebels of the Neon God all the time, so I could see myself rewatching the other three quite often. This one is definitely a... Hey, even for me, I have a crazy long attention span. I watched all 8 hours of Andy Warhol's Empire, and now it's like my favorite movie. But yeah, even for me, this is definitely one where you gotta pay attention and stick with it.
What about that building, though, for you, Ryan? That built the grody looking building. It's glass, but it's the coloring on it has faded and shifted. You might have blinked and missed it. It was only shot on screen for maybe like a minute.
An hour.
Wait, there's something on screen for just a minute in this movie?
No, he's
What kind of fast-paced action movie are you talking about?
I liked I didn't enjoy watching this movie, but I think it's great art. I can see why someone would love it, and I expect that one day I may connect with it more deeply.
I think in a lot of ways, because it is so far into the style he's developed over 30 years, this might be the one that in 20 years people in film class are still watching and arguing over.
I think this one and I think Goodbye Dragon Inn will be his his Heat, and this will be his Miami Vice.
Interesting.
You're talking about the films of Steven Spielberg, right?
Yes. Steven Soderbergh, you mean?
Yes.
Well, we just watched this. What do we watch this last night? Yeah. And so I think that's part of it for me, is how recent this was. Stray Dogs and Rebels, last time we watched, we had quite a while to think on them. And in my memory now, especially after having freshly watched Days, Stray Dogs, to me, I'm like, oh man, that last act of the movie is so epic and so climactic with all this stuff coming together. And when I was watching it, it was a lot slower of an experience. But in my memory, it's like this epic, crazy movie with all this shit happening. And so I don't know, maybe in a couple months after I've watched a dozen more movies, I'll think back on Days and be like, wow, it was packed full of incidents and stuff going on.
Yeah.
And it is a long play for your love and admiration if you do like this kind of movie. Like, I saw much different style of filmmaker, but I saw the NWR Amazon show in like 2021. I still think about that thing all the fucking time. I mean, the images just stick with you and sit in your mind and take on more and more the longer they're there.
Co-signed.
Thomas, what you need to do is get laid off.
A massage.
And spend 6 months staying up late at night, ending every night watching train videos, slow cinema train videos from Europe on YouTube, and then you will come back to this filmmaker and really catch the vibe.
I think he watched one of those and it scared him because the train is coming right at him.
Very slowly, but still coming right at him.
Yeah.
I had, because the previous three movies, I was like, I don't like being reductive and just making comparisons to other directors. Even though the first three, Godard, Tarkovsky, and Altman, I still stand by those. But there was a director I thought about for this one, and it was only insofar as my sense when watching it that before a frame was shot, they had talked over their characters' biographies at great length. So I always felt like the actors were in a place that they were coming from that character's history, even though we're not really privy to it. And the weird director I thought of, also somebody who's known for lots of dialogue, is Mike Leigh, who does something similar with his movies where they build up their backgrounds before they even shoot a frame of film or digital, whatever it is. And particularly this one, I sensed there was something behind every action and a history behind them. And maybe that is not true. I don't know. But it's a testament to the way he constructed the film that I felt it anyway. I felt like these guys had a history in the world that is different from the actors and began before the movie began.
Agree. Well said.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Mike Leigh will be on our next 4x4, hopefully.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Shit, which ones would we do? Anyway, that's
if you enjoyed this, go listen to last week's episode where we talked about Green Room. That was fun, fellas, right?
I know, yeah. I barely got out of that fucker alive.
Yeah. Nazi punks fuck off.
Hey, have you guys ever been in a shopping mall?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What?
What?
I just woke up. What did you say?
Have you ever been
in a shopping mall?
Have you ever been walking and they have those guys? They have those little massage tables you could sit on, and then they'll give you a quick massage for $10.
Yeah,
a quickie?
Theaters showing this movie should have had that in their lobby.
In Las
Absolutely.
Vegas, while really amazingly ecstatically fucked up, I had little fish eat the dead skin off my feet for like $5. That was similar. I could have enjoyed this movie
While you were at the aquarium? Because that would work.
I don't know if similar is the word I would use, but
it was basically a mall kiosk. I just stuck my foot in a tank instead of having.
Are you sure that was allowed, or was it like a pet store?
It was like Spock in Star Trek 4. Star Trek 4. Jumps right in.
You drop your wallet in the fish tank.
The funny thing is that if anyone's been to downtown Las Vegas, they know that as long as you don't hurt someone else, there will be no consequences. And so who knows? That may have well been a pet store, Jack.
Anybody who's ever had a massage, I think, particularly in the early parts of it, where you're just lying there and they're like massaging the calves and the feet, there is like a tactile response when I was watching that, where I was actually comforted the way, not exactly like a massage, but I could have sense memories of similar non-sexual massages. And it is kind of pleasing how long he holds that, particularly the first half of it before the guy flips over. It is kind of relaxing.
Well, one of the complaints I had about the film that I wasn't going to mention, it's a little bit like having a better film in your film, is if you have a boring movie, don't show people sleeping. It's so fucking tempting. It might be the middle of the day. One of your podcast hosts' wife might be over making curtains using a sewing machine loudly behind you, yapping.
I don't know that he would. And I feel this way too about Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron. I think if you told this guy that you fell asleep during one of his movies and woke up and the movie was still on, he'd be like, "Yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, it's that Abbas Kiarostami quote about the best movies that he's ever seen. He's fallen asleep during in the cinema. That classic quote that I say all the time, because as you may know from being on this podcast, I fall asleep in movies all the time. And I did not sleep through any of these 4 because they were all entertaining.
That's wild to me. I mean, that's one of the things I did write down as a note to ask you, is if you just got this as an excuse so we could all fall asleep and you wouldn't fall asleep.
It's a different kind of, if it works for you, I think it's a different kind of viewing experience.
Yeah, it's definitely a vibe that you have to know what you're getting into. Like, I wouldn't say, "Oh, you gotta see this sexy gay movie," and people are like, "Oh, okay, it's gonna be a sexy gay movie."
Are you doing a Norm Macdonald impression right now?
Let's do a ranking. Can we rank?
Ooh, yeah.
Woo! Like, out of all time? Because you had a movie, you said prior to us doing the Green Room episode, which was so good. That was so much fun, guys. That the Dragon Inn film, Goodbye Dragon Inn, was going to be like in your top 3 of all time, if I heard you correctly.
Top 5.
Sorry,
but I
five.
didn't mean rank top 5. I mean rank these 4 movies we watched. But yeah,
okay.
It's definitely it's definitely Goodbye Dragon Inn is definitely in the top 10, if not the top 5. You know.
Wow.
Okay, let's sit down and think.
Let's start 4 to 1. We'll go oldest to youngest. So I'll start number 4, Days. Who's next oldest? Ryan.
I think that's me. Number 4, Neon Gods.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Thomas?
I don't care.
God.
I love it.
All right, Jack.
I still loved it, but Days.
All right. Number 3, I'm going with Rebels. Ryan?
Stray Dogs.
Whoa.
Jack?
Number 3, Rebels. Yeah.
All right, and we're just gonna skip Thomas.
Yeah.
Even though he's younger than Jack.
Days of Future Past.
Number 2, Goodbye Dragon Inn. Ryan?
Wow. For me, number 2 would be Days, and that's because I think it is a better. I think this guy probably feels that is one of the very best things he's ever done. Like that is the dream.
Interesting.
So
That's a
even
good
though
point.
I prefer Stray Dogs by a lot, I think he probably feels that Days is stronger.
Okay.
Interesting.
Jack, number
And
two.
I mean, well, I mean, I'm just gonna give a shout out for Days because it has some representation in there. I like to see myself on screen. not as somebody who pays for sex, but as an American walking down a street in a foreign country. Just wanted to clarify that.
Number two?
Number two?
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have the same list. I think Goodbye Dragon Inn would be, even though it's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah.
And then number one would be Stray Dogs by far.
Stray Dogs, Ryan. Number one, Goodbye Dragon Inn.
Goodbye Dragon Inn, just because, like that's the all timer. That's the if we have a world in 100 years, they'll be thinking about that one.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Thomas, you weren't on the Stray Dogs episode, but that was one of the few movies I've ever seen where when it was over, I felt like my brain was temporarily rewired, and it made me see the world through the lens and the pacing and the rhythm of the movie. Super remarkable. Yeah, that's such a good that shot where it's just their two faces staring at that mural for 10 minutes.
The last 45 minutes of that movie is so fucking nuts.
Oh my god, the cabbage eating scene is one of oh my god.
I hated the cabbage.
I don't think I'll ever forget that. I'll have Alzheimer's and dementia probably 5 years at this rate. But I'm still gonna say in my deathbed, what was that movie where he ate that cabbage?
He poked his fingers into it first.
Jack, the deathbed bit for Ken is to dress up the cabin and put the cabbage and put it in bed next to him. Like he wakes up one day in a stupor, and has to decide if he's going to eat that fucking thing. It's like it's like better than the horse's head from Godfather.
And I am written out of the will.
I'm leaving it all. Wait, what did the son call it? Big
Miss Big Boobs.
Leaving it all to Miss Big Boobs.
The mural staring scene in Stray Dogs really didn't hit me, but when I saw it many, many times repeated in Goodbye Dragon Inn, I understood like what I was missing there. And I think next time I see it, it'll feel different.
I mean, I do think there's something interesting where in Stray Dogs, where the son makes some type of drawing in the sand, and he's asking his sister what she sees or something, and you never actually see the thing that he made. And I feel like that is a lot of what I find interesting and might actually populate out, like we were talking back in the previous episode about what might show up in cinema, but might be appropriated by more mainstream films. And that is a lot of things take place because the camera is stationary, take place outside of the frame, but what's going on just by sound cues. So fewer edits and more sound cues and environmental cues for what's going on, or just not seeing the thing, long shots and not being able to see the thing that somebody's discussing because it doesn't really matter. It's just a curiosity. It's something I could see incorporating if I was making a film right now.
Interesting.
I don't know that I would consider him mainstream, but certainly more famous. While you were talking, Thomas, I thought about Jonathan Glazer, and particularly Jenny and I. And in fact, we joked about this when she was watching me watch Days. We joked about how much time Scarlett Johansson spends driving her van looking for prey, and how I would totally love that movie if she didn't spend so much of the runtime just fucking driving. And so I would think that movies like that might be how his style matriculates a little bit, because you are watching her hunting in those scenes, which now that I know that, maybe I'll enjoy them more. But for me, if not for the audience, Ken and Jack, I know Tarkovsky, and Ken, you mentioned Bela Tarr, but what are some good slow cinema starter movies?
Oh, Jack would be the one to ask.
What's a Bellatar that I should check out?
Oh, Workmeister Harmonies.
Okay.
Is the one I would start with. That movie has some scenes in it that I still think about. It actually has music in it that I've often said I want played at my funeral.
I still gotta watch that.
An incredibly beautiful movie that is so indelible because of the way it's shot.
Okay.
If you can track down the I guess it's, well, there's a bunch of different versions of it, but the Tarkovsky's preferred cut of Andrei Rublev, which is, I think, exactly 3 hours long.
Uh-huh.
That was my introduction to him as a director, and really a lot of slow cinema. And it takes the guise of like an 50s action war epic like Ben-Hur,
Okay.
shout out, or Spartacus or something like that, one of these grand historical propaganda movies with battle sequences and historical figures and all that, but it is also very slow and very meditative, and that immediately got me hooked on Tarkovsky like a drug.
Okay, that's great because and I mentioned this on the last episode, but I have seen a few of what I think are his deeper cuts, and they totally, and it was 20 years ago, but they totally bounced off me.
Well, they're playing The Sacrifice on October 29th at the Hollywood. I'm going to be there, so show up.
Maybe I will.
People
show up.
In the past, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They were playing it.
And then I would just like to say, I mentioned a couple of times, but Thomas, for me, the slow cinema, the meditation of like those train videos, that was the first thing I kind of got into. And that's kind of what I thought people on Twitter were talking about when I would read people talking about slow cinema. It's like, it's just these train movies? Is that really the new thing? It's like, we're watching trains? But Nicholas Winding Refn and David Lynch have both done a lot of stuff in the last 15 years that is slow cinema merged with genre, which is what I love the most.
I don't know if you saw the chart or the graphic that Jack sent out. But it's I would say that I have an allergy to slow cinema, but I do like a lot of Jarmusch, but I didn't like Ghost Mob. Maybe it was a little too slow. But the other person on here that I like a lot, and almost I haven't found a film of his that I do not like, is Robert Bresson.
Ooh, yeah.
And I just like all of his films, which is interesting because they are very slow, but I do like the way that, and they have novice actors, right? Like they have no trained actors in them typically. But there is something to, I guess, his style of meditation and storytelling that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So we've all got our slow cinema guy. We're in a boxing ring. We're all in our own corner.
Uh-huh.
I got Kelly Reichardt in the corner waiting to tag in.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Have you seen I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize to literally every human. Apichatapong, where Uncle Bonamy in his past lives. Have you guys seen that guy's work? He did Memoriam, right? I hated that one, but his other stuff is pretty good.
I haven't seen his other movies. That one looks pretty cool though.
Yeah, I think
and not familiar either.
That one is like a family that lives in the forest in Thailand, I believe. And so it has he loves to do like magical stuff lurking in the wilderness. And then I haven't seen Roy Andersson, but he is the surreal Swedish version of this stuff where it's like supposed to be really funny and David Lynch visuals, but what if happy? Yeah, my understanding.
There's like a guy with a hat and he's floating or something.
Yeah, or like
pretty funny.
A guy is a guy is on top of a ladder looking at files on a wall. That's just those steel boxes, and it goes up like 100 stories.
Yeah,
guys, you got to warn me. You're gonna say something funny like that before I take a drink of Coke. Ruin my computer.
Well, you could buy a new computer with some of the money we're getting from this week's sponsor.
Oh, wait. Are you talking about our special behind the paywall podcast, Subtitles, Please? Where we cover a range of BDSM books that occur at sandwich shops underwater.
No, I was talking about our sponsor this week, Johnson & Johnson's baby oil.
Huh.
Johnson & Johnson's baby oil. Yes, we know the baby part should be in quotation marks as well.
It's not made out of baby?
Oh, I just
They
want to
don't
say,
milk babies for
Ken,
the oil?
before this goes out, we might need to review content considering Johnson & Johnson's culpability in whatever the fuck Diddy was doing. Because
whoa, we're getting way far afield.
That man had 1,000 bottles of sealed Johnson & Johnson baby oil in his mansion, and no one knows what it was for.
I'm sorry, who?
Diddy.
No one knows what it was for.
Daddy?
Are you sure?
No, Jack, we don't know. Why would anyone have 1,000 fucking bottles? That's so much baby oil, my dude. What's he gonna do? A swim pool?
Hey, I've done the same thing with a pickup order where I thought I was doing weight, and instead I was doing quantity of units. So maybe he was just trying to get a liter, and he got 1,000 bottles instead.
There are some good jokes about how you shouldn't be distracted while ordering off the Costco site.
We'll link to those in the show notes.
What the fuck are we talking about?
I think that these films have rewired our brains.
Number 4 podcast in the world, you guys.
Ryan.
Yeah.
You're Weird AI. Thank you for the theme song, but you are curating our next director. So what? Who is it, and what's going to be our pairing next week?
We're going to watch some old classical Hollywood films by William Wyler.
Big Willie.
Yeah.
Woo.
Wyler started directing in the 20s and carried through to, I think his last movie came out in 1971. He's best known for Ben-Hur, commercially speaking, and then in film nerd and history circles, he's also known for The Best Years of Our Lives, which is incredible. We're not going to watch either of those ones, though. Instead, we are going to watch. We're going to start with 2 noirs that he did. Kirk Douglas in Detective Story, which is adopted from a play. He loved to adopt plays. I think that one's from 51, if I remember correctly. And then Desperate Hours, starring Humphrey Bogart, and very good mid-50s noir, perhaps the first home invasion thriller.
Ooh.
And so if you guys didn't get enough during our first director or during our Nolan series early on of hearing Ryan say the word noir in his own unique way, strike in.
How am I supposed to say it?
However, no, keep with it. It's a great bit.
I don't even know. Now that you say that, I can't even think of how I say it. So yes, it should be a good. We should get a lot of play out of it.
Special thanks to Jack for picking this director we've just watched 4 movies of. This has been great.
Yeah.
I would not have watched any of them were it not for this. So thanks, Jack.
Yeah, you're welcome. My second choice was Lars von Trier. So, all right. Let's wrap this up so we can watch the Niners, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. If this podcast wasn't depressing enough, now I have to go watch the 49ers play.
By the time this comes out, maybe there'll have been a grand comeback.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Yeah, you just jinxed it. Thanks, man.
All right.
All right, we're done.
I'm not talking at you. I'm talking to you. I don't want to hear about you. I want to hear from you. It's 10-4. 10-4, buddies. Destroy. Kill all hippies.
I don't hate it. I just don't know why you strayed from the formula.
You bastards. You don't know it, Bob. I'm an artist. And I must reflect that in my rhyme.
That movie where he ate that cabbage. You're talking about the films of Steven Spielberg, right?
Ecstatically fucked up.
Nazi punks fuck off.
That's a double gong.
I don't care.